It's not giving me a widget. Never mind, I got a widget. Stand by. Even though we're live on the air. Stand by.
I know.
Clinch tightly. Invalid link. No.
You need to do the custom embed. Do the custom embed.
That's what I'm doing. Mini widget. Play automatically. Yes. Current episode. Copy.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't realized yet, we are figuring out technical things live on the air. This is episode This is episode number 143 of Won't Get Serious. That's Yankum DDS suffering.
This is fantastic. This was a wonderful idea for you to put me in charge of this. I'm the technical producer, goddammit, not the iframe source. Oh please, you did not think I knew what I was doing. You should not spread vicious lies like that. I don't know how the timer tube thing works. Apparently. Yeah. Here it is. You put that in there and do the thing. There's your control. You put that in the thing, put that other thing in the place that does the stuff, and that's what I'm broadcasting live.
That's what I'm trying to do.
To say an invalid link.
Hold on.
Playlist controls.
You don't see an invalid link.
Yeah, see?
This is a test, ladies and gentlemen. A TEST. Test.
And stuff is broken. Good thing nobody's coming into that room. I don't understand. Hey, why we're doing this live on the air. Oh, well, I know why we're doing it live on the air, because we don't have a choice. Yeah. Mini widget.
So simple onboard codes are iframe and object tags. We're still here, by the way.
Yes, we are. Although we may not be for much longer if this keeps up. Oh boy.
There we go. Let's see if this works.
We've done this before. For those of you who don't know, if you're listening to this, and you're probably not, because usually no one does, here's what's going on. There is if you're familiar with the, what was that called? The software is based off of?
Which was
SyncTube.
SciTube.
Yeah,
SciTube.
SyncTube. So basically, we've got this thing. It's SyncTube. It's on. Up. And it's up! So, Tama.tv, that's TAIMA.tv/r/wooo radio is up and running, and we are going into the show after 4 minutes and 53 seconds of I don't even want to imagine. So let's do this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 143 of Woo Get Serious. My name is Gunnar, and guess what? Omega PR is here.
You know it's the holidays when there is rampant frustration and nobody knows what to do.
Exactly. Joining us this week also, as you've heard before, is our wonderful technical producer, Mr. I Can't Figure Anything Out, TDS.
Yes. Wait, what? How am I Mr. I Can't Figure Anything Out when you're the one that's just... Wouldn't that make you Mr. Hey, here's this thing I want to do 5 minutes before broadcast time. You've never done this before, so let's just go ahead and do that.
Well, there's that too, yeah. But, welcome. We're going to get started with something that you probably didn't think that we get started with. We're going to start with the news. The Observer reports that while not set in stone, the current running plan for Undertaker is not a match with Sting, but with Bray Wyatt, which is why Wyatt won at TLC. There are rumblings of several talents put on a silent protest by mailing in their performances at the pay-per-view, going to be compared directly to NXT TakeOver Re-Evolution to send a message that Triple H should head the main roster efforts the way he does NXT. Apparently, John Cena held a forceful yet calm talent meeting Monday afternoon to push the idea of stepping up performances instead. Brian Alvarez claims that WWE's merchandising department has been told to replace any further Brock Lesnar ideas with Sheamus, further suggesting Lesnar is on the way out, but the spokesman denies the claim. So rampant rumors about Brock Lesnar jumping over to UFC as well. Will he fight CM Punk? Can he get down to 180 pounds? All this and more.
Let me tell you.
On the next soap.
If The Undertaker laces his boots in Santa Clara for anybody but Sting, it would be a crime.
I would agree.
You know, which again, more examples of their quote-unquote long-term booking trickling down to make stupid decisions in the here and now. Bray Wyatt winning. It's not the fact that Bray won the match, it's the fact that he won it in the manner in which he did. Which, again, it sort of forces their whole, nobody can lose. Nobody can just lose unless it's someone they don't care about. Because at which point, then you have to have, TVs that blow up and, extra stipulations and matches where nobody has to get pinned, and, it's completely ridiculous at this point. And now they think that a match with Bray Wyatt, the guy who's essentially a jobber to the stars, who has his nonsensical promos and everything, just because Wyatt kinda sorta has a creepy vibe to him the way The Undertaker does, I guess, which granted that's kind of the basis of the Sting-Undertaker match. But, we're talking about a bona fide dream match between two people who stuck by their promotions throughout the Monday Night Wars, and you're telling me that you would rather put Undertaker in a match with Bray Wyatt, who, let's be honest, for going over Cena and all the other people he's gotten one over on, where is he?
Exactly. I agree with everything you just said about that.
Yeah, by the way, it's our evolution, not revolution.
Yeah.
Yes, our revolution. That's what I meant to say.
Which, by the way, was, probably show of the year. And, if in fact, I'm not sure how much I buy this idea, but if in fact Triple H is sort of hindered by Vince McMahon on the main roster, and Vince runs the main roster while Triple H runs NXT. If that is in fact the case, then by all means put Triple H in charge of the main roster.
Yes, I would really like to see. I mean, if that's what it's going to take to put Triple H in charge, it would. It just seems to me that everyone's really frustrated with what their job is right now, and half of them don't want it, half of them do, and the other half just doesn't want to work hard enough to be able to get to the top. and like back to this thing with Vince and the millennials thing. Vince believes that anyone under the age of 30 isn't working hard enough. I'm sorry, there's Dolph Ziggler, and that match, with Dolph Ziggler is just, well, the Survivor Series performance by Dolph Ziggler is just perfect. Is a perfect example of somebody who isn't, who's working really hard, trying to do something with the spot that he's got, but he keeps getting shit canned. For people that are safe, and people that should go over, quote unquote, or should be kept strong. If somebody is kept strong, let's put it this way: if you have to keep someone strong, that means that there's some sort of instability in and some sort of weakness in their character. And I don't think it's necessarily from the booking standpoint.
Yeah, we could go on all night about it. Basically, what I don't believe is I think Triple H has more people that he likes, and I think he knows what to do with them better. But the idea that, that overall, they either like you or they don't, and if they don't, then you're going to struggle forever. And if they do, then, I don't think that'll magically go away should he come to power. But anyway, speaking of you either like it or you don't, it appears that Impact Wrestling will debut on Destination America Wednesday, January 7th, first with a 12-hour marathon featuring recaps of famous rivalries and moments leading up to a live 2-hour Impact at 9 p.m. It will then move to its regular time slot, which is actually on Fridays at 9 p.m. New show called Impact Wrestling Unlocked, hosted by Mike Tenay, who is off the announce desk, will air on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., starting January 17th, featuring bonus facts and footage. Jim Ross discussed co-announcing the Wrestle Kingdom iPay-per-view with Mike Tenay with the idea that TNA would be plugged throughout the broadcast, but TNA shot him down. So instead, his broadcast partner has been announced as Matt Stryker. And Sony PlayStation WoO, a cloud-based TV service, was announced this past week, with Destination America being among the channels participating, possibly giving more fans in more countries another way to watch TNA in their new home. So, Fridays at 9 p.m. is the new Impact Wrestling time slot.
Well, with SmackDown moving away from... hold on a second, Yango. With SmackDown moving away from Friday nights into Thursday nights, it frees up Friday nights for Impact Wrestling, and it also puts them at an interesting position because that's a death slot right there. 9 p.m. on a Friday, that's a death slot because what are you doing at 9 p.m. on a Friday? That's right, you're going out usually. So I mean, and a 12-hour marathon to recap rivalries and moments? 12 hours? What?
I am predicting that the ratings are going to be 0.5 every week. They will not get above a 0.5.
But that's what we've been saying all along, Yango, because they have half the people that Spike had. By half the potential eyes viewed by Spike had. They only usually have 100,000 to 200,000 people watching at a time.
Well, consider that it is weird that, let's say that they bring them in and TNA is sure to get them more ratings than any other program they have. Friday at 9, like you said, Friday is one of the worst primetime spots. And I don't know if they're hoping that wrestling fans used to SmackDown on Friday will tune in. I don't know if they're hoping that, maybe that's a big peak for Destination America. Maybe the older crowd likes to watch the Alaska shows and stuff on a Friday night, winding down, getting ready for the weekend. I don't know. It just seems like a weird time slot. Not one that's completely productive to the highest ratings, but, I don't know. Also, Jim Ross and Matt Stryker, that should be a decent enough pairing, wouldn't you say?
it will be very interesting to hear the two of them go off on commentary. Matt Stryker is quite talented, and well, JR is godly. I don't know if JR will be godly or if he will be phoning it in like he did in the later days in the WWE. No offense to JR. We will see, though. We will see.
I think you also have the benefit of Stryker is, JR's been watching up and reading up on New Japan and everything, but I think Stryker probably, you could rely on Stryker in a way to be that bank of knowledge and then have JR exude the emotion and such that we know him for.
Right.
I'm looking to see what they've got leading in on to 9 o'clock on Friday, and it is Monsters and Mysteries in America. This coming Friday, it'll be the dark and mysterious forests of the Ozarks have always been a source of folklore and unexplainable tales. Locals recount their encounters with the folk monster, the Pope Lick monster, and the Spooklight. Ooh, that's sure to just yank in those ratings.
Is that like a flashlight for ghosts?
Yes, that's exactly what that is. It's like a flashlight for ghosts. Except there's nothing like a flashlight.
Speaking of controversial things, although controversial, several outlets report the Slammy voting and Roman Reigns as Superstar of the Year was legitimate. Controversial decision to have Charlotte lose a quick match to Natalya was a Vince McMahon decision, which Triple H defended during a conference call to promote the NXT event, saying that there was time constraints and no one could remember it in 6 months when she's on the main roster. When asked during a Twitter Q&A if Vince McMahon watches NXT, he said, quote, "I'm sure he will. Trust me, he's invested in the future more than anyone." Also,
Jesus Christ.
The event, he tweeted that he was missing a box of brass rings, referencing McMahon's comments during the Steve Austin's podcast. I would disagree. I would really disagree with this box of brass rings because they're all linked together. If you haven't realized that, and the more people that try to grab them, well, the lower you're gonna fall.
Well, personally, I think it's hard to reach for a brass ring when it's already on the burly Samoan finger of, one individual.
Believe that, baby girl.
And, I don't hate Roman Reigns. I think he has a ton of potential. But I think the problem is, people really see through the smoke screen. Here's a guy who's been gone for several months. Not necessarily his fault. He was injured, of course. But it's kind of like last year in the Batista thing. Batista came back and, Bryan was white hot. But they essentially said, no, here's the guy you want to cheer for. And that's kind of what's happening again. It's not that Roman Reigns is a bad guy to cheer for. It's just that, they're really trying to force it.
Yep. To me, he is a perfectly fine individual that will blossom at some point or another. I could totally see Roman Reigns actually being decent, and like I said before, out of the trio of the Shield, he is the Rock out of the group. Not because he's Samoan, but because he is the big guy with the personality.
Well, he needs to work on personality a little bit.
Yeah, define personality, because
what I believe actually you're seeing is something I actually heard Alvarez say on his podcast, which was the fact that he's not or I think it was Vinny, one of the two. He should shut the fuck up with these scripted lines and say things that he actually means. Because half the time when he's talking, he's saying things that he actually means, and he talks way better than he would if he were to talk about if he were to deliver a line. He's terrible at delivering lines. He's great at saying things.
Yeah, it really does feel like he's trying to remember his lines half the time.
And that's not his fault.
Yeah, well, again, that's just more of they try to push certain things and they just don't work, and then, they think, well, alright, He won Superstar of the Year, so obviously they're doing something right. Color me surprised that was legitimate, because I thought for sure something was going on there. But, again, it's sort of a matter of, they try to force things, and things have to happen organically. And I think, again, Reigns has a lot of potential to be a great superstar organically. It's just, the promo thing is a perfect example. When you let him kind of say what he means, it comes off well. When you say what they tell him to, then it doesn't. And the whole, Charlotte losing to Natalia, that's part of their whole fundamental things need to change in their sort of crafting, writing, storyline, booking, because that's when things like that happen, and people do remember that.
Speaking of things that people will remember, see what I did there? There is some concern about CM Punk getting licensed for MMA, given that he has no experience as a fighter. He pitched a fight with Chael Sonnen at one point with a reality TV show leading up to the bout, but Sonnen's many problems in and out of the UFC would prevent it, and he says he wouldn't want to fight a friend anyway. MMA boss Dan Lambert of American Top Team, who's an old-school pro wrestling belt collector, says that WWE gave him a few other belts in exchange for the original WWF title that Bruno Sammartino held, so it could be placed in their still-planned Physical Hall of Fame. As a side note, several UFC fighters plan to sue the organization, possibly leading to a class action lawsuit over violations of the Sherman Antitrust Act via elimination of competition. I don't see how him not being an experienced fighter would have that much effect on him being able to get licensed, because everyone has to get licensed in the first place, it would seem.
Well, I think the caveat is that he has zero fighting experience, whereas a pro fighter usually has a lot of amateur experience. They might be involved with some kind of training camp, which he's not yet.
They haven't said yet if he's going to be involved in the training camp or where he's going to be involved. So they're waiting for that information to come out.
But I kind of have to wonder how many fights he's going to have in him. He's not really a young guy.
Three. That's the number I'm betting on. But I would like to see that original Bruno Sammartino belt, and I would love to find out I would love to find out the other stories that Archivist guy has about all the crap that's in the warehouse and all the crap that's missing. Speaking of things that are missing, Summer Rae and Naomi appear to be leaving the Total Divas cast. Many took Paul Heyman's remarks during the TLC pre-show about Ryback being dangerous force in the ring as a reference to CM Punk's podcast comments. Alex Riley has been tweeting about being let out of his cage, even flashing a Free Riley sign as Raw pre-show ended. Alberto El Patron is heading to Ring of Honor for several dates in January, with his first match being with Christopher Daniels. Alberto Del Rio versus Christopher Daniels in 2014.
I'm okay with this.
I'm a little more than okay with this.
That's going to be a pretty good match.
Kind of surprised he didn't go for TNA instead, but I guess ROH is just as good at this point.
Pretty much. And I wouldn't necessarily, sign the contract with ROH, but I would. But if he wanted to work with ROH, that'd be perfectly fine. Somebody else is going to work for PWG. It's like a big surprise name. I forget who it is. Did you see this, Omega?
I'm not quite sure. I know that the Young Bucks recently turned down a WWE tryout, and there's rumors about Wuhan Nation possibly either going or turning it down himself.
Yeah, from what I understand, he turned down that particular offer.
Which Joey Ryan, I think it was, made a comment on Twitter. It's kind of surprising when the state of the business, when people are actually turning down offers from the big one to stay in the indies.
Right. Let's see here. One more thing. Rolling Stone announced the Wrestler of the Year. I know you guys have already read it, but who do you think it would be?
Well, if not Cena, then probably, maybe a Daniel Bryan or a Dean Ambrose, guys who were up for Superstar of the Year.
What do you think, Yankum? Who do you think would be the Superstar of the Year?
It was not, the person that it is not someone that I would suspect that it would be at all.
But who do you think?
Well, I mean, like,
who do you think they would pick?
Cena or Bryan or, I don't know. Punk wasn't here all year, I guess. So not Punk, even though his name gets chanted every Raw and pay-per-view and SmackDown and Superstars, NXT, house shows.
Well, actually, they picked Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is the Wrestler of the Year.
I didn't even know that Rolling Stone picked a Wrestler of the Year.
Well, they started to have a wrestling every week, a wrestling blog every week, basically. So you're seeing now is more wrestling blogs, much like the Huffington Post has one.
Right.
Which is
that's me being dismissive of both of those.
That's pretty much what it is. It's some asshole who gets paid to write about wrestling.
Right, right. It's one guy, and he just writes his opinion down, and then that's what Rolling Stones... Yeah. I mean, that's fine or whatever. That's what most wrestling blogs are, but, I'll take, Pro Wrestling Insider over Rolling Stone or Huffington Post any day.
Right.
So, fellow former Shield brothers Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins have both benefited from massive pushes, but neither has found
That's from the article itself. You could start from the top.
Oh, Rolling Stone also named Dolph Ziggler the Wrestler of the Year. There's no obvious unanimous choice for 2014's WWE Wrestler of the Year. Daniel Bryan was unable to follow through the tremendous momentum he carried into and out of WrestleMania 30 thanks to a succession of nagging injuries. CM Punk bowed out of the business altogether. Babyface heir apparent Roman Reigns hit the shelf with a hernia, although he was still months from maturing into the marquee guy. And then we've got former Shield brothers, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, that both benefited from the massive pushes, but neither has found a feud that fully exploits their magnetism and talent. Creative's fault. Upstart heels Bray Wyatt and Rusev continue honing the personas, but both seem to get away from putting it all together. Bray Wyatt is fine. Rusev is awesome. Current World Heavyweight Champion Brock... Well, I mean, that's arguable, because if he's just the guy that runs around and wrecks shit for shits and giggles, I don't know if you know this, Gunnar, but some men just want to watch the world burn.
But that's what he's doing right now, and it doesn't make much sense, and people are complaining about the fact that his promos just don't make any fucking sense.
They're the Ultimate Warriors.
They got the vibe. They're great. They're wonderful. But he needs to start articulating a little bit better what his point it should be, and be a little less.
But crazy people don't make sense. I don't know if you've ever interacted with anyone who's actually like batshit fucking insane. They don't make any sense at all. Not a lick. And that's what makes them batshit insane.
But Ray's too smart to be batshit insane.
What? No, you can be smart and batshit insane. Go ahead, Omega.
They don't make for good storytelling, that's the point. Because look at what he did to Cena, and then he just kind of forgot about him. And then look at what he did to... Well, first they went after Kane, and then that didn't mean anything. But, you know, then they go after Cena, that doesn't mean anything. He's going after Ambrose, that probably won't end up meaning anything. I mean, that's kind of the point, you know. He just kind of jumps around from...
Well, yeah, he's meandering around doing this, and then they don't... that's not... It is the character, but it's not, because I agree, and it's, if it was him, if he was directly saying, I'm just doing this because that's what I like to do, it's fun to go and destroy stuff because I can, that would be fine and dandy, but they're trying to make it seem like he's after these people for a certain reason, but they don't really want to bother writing down whatever the fuck reason it is. So he's like, go out there and say some crazy shit.
And since he doesn't have a reason, which is why everybody's like, meh.
Right, but if it was that he would just come out and say he doesn't have a reason, it would be fine. Because then he'd be like, I just want to watch you, I just want to destroy you and cripple you and make it so you can never walk again, because that's what I like to do.
But he doesn't say that.
The problem is, they don't know what they want to do with him. Like most other people.
I agree.
And that's where the character suffers, because then he just kind of, again, like I said, he's a jobber to the stars. He's used as an excuse to get, Ambrose away from Rollins and this and that.
Look at Cesaro, for example. Where the fuck is he? He got way too over. Exactly. 15-minute time limit. We were going to talk about this TLC pay-per-view. But instead, we're going to talk about the NXT one.
I didn't see it.
I had TLC on in the background while I was doing finals.
I didn't see it.
I actually watched both of them, so perhaps I can provide a bit of perspective.
Alright, well, let's blow through TLC, because that's pretty much what it did. The New Day defeated Golden Stardust.
A lot of people are complaining about New Day. I don't see what the problem is.
Well, the problem with New Day is, you get past the obvious kind of racial connotations of the gimmick. Let's just put it past it, because there's nothing anybody can do about it. It's the fact that it's really not even, it's a gimmick about nothing. They don't really do anything. They just kind of come out and dance, and that's it. Which, at least they're on TV, granted, but they don't really do anything. That's the problem.
2 words. Shuck and jive. Shuck and jive. That's all the gimmick is. With a positive preacher... positive preacher gimmick on top of that.
I don't think it's, I mean, that's exactly, shucking and jiving is exactly what Crime Time was, and 90% of anything R-Truth is involved in. But New Day...
And that's the point. It's the same thing over and over again. There's no substance there.
I don't know why. I like them.
Anyway, let's not get too hung up on the gimmick. They beat them.
Right.
It was an okay pre-show match, and you saw it again on Raw, which you saw a lot of this stuff on Raw again. Really, this show was like a well curve, which is a reverse bell curve, which it started up way at the top with this ladder match, and then it really dipped, and then it kind of climbed its way back toward the end with the actual TLC match.
Dolph Ziggler defeated Luke Harper in a ladder match to win the IC title. Please tell me, I didn't see it. Please tell me that it was Shawn and Razor Ramon all over him.
Well, it's funny because that's what the announcers kept saying, that not since they kept referring to Michaels and Ramon in that match and how great it was and comparing, this is the future, guys, this is great. And honestly, it was pretty transparent because, the whole idea that this show would be compared to NXT and everything, and the funny thing about it is it didn't even last very long. It lasted for like this match, and then they kind of cooled off on it. Which, granted, it was nice that they were putting these guys over that big, but they were really laying it on thick. I mean, not that they didn't deserve it, because this really was perhaps the match of the night. It was a great effort by all, and really, Harper just throwing Ziggler around with abandon. Not in an unsafe way necessarily, but in a way that, stuff you didn't usually see, like, Harper just chucking ladders at Ziggler direct, and, Ziggler, of course, with his, the way he moves and emotes himself during the match.
Bumping around like that must be fun as hell. The Usos defeated Miz and Mizdow by disqualification.
Yeah, and see, this is the point where people started to say, okay, it's going to be one of those shows, because for a show that was supposed to be compared to NXT, a disqualification ending,
Yep. Boo! It's a pay-per-view. Don't disqualify me. This isn't another episode of Raw.
We had Show and Rowan in that stairs match, and Show actually beating Rowan, which doesn't make a lot of sense as to why
it makes zero sense
going over at this point. I think I'm almost half convinced that every pay-per-view there's one dumb sort of reverse result just so they can skew the betting on it. Now that people actually bet on these pay-per-views and such. But, they were, again, it wasn't a bad match, it had a much slower pace. You have two big guys, and you have big stairs, and they're kind of, lobbing each other into them, sort of, and, it was an effort. I mean, it just...
0 out of 10, which we'll call it, no big stairs.
It's tough, it's just tough that, you have this great ladder match that opens the show, and then everything else maybe unfairly gets compared to it, but then you have things like, in the middle of the show you had Cena versus Rollins in that table match, and that was first of all, it became extremely apparent that this was not an actual match, because J&J Security would interfere at every turn. Although it didn't really make much sense, because even Michael Cole would point out, well, why don't they just throw Cena through a table if they're going to interfere? Cole literally pointed out the steps in logic that this match was taking. And, I'll say, kudos to them for not going the easy route and, just doing that, or having Cena at one point gave a super AA into a table and letting that be the end of the match. But that's when it started to kind of fall apart and got overbooked. You had the referee didn't see it, and then they both went through it. Cena fought off J&J, and then both him and Rollins went through a table, and then you have the whole three refs in the ring. One says this guy won, the other said that guy won. Then they restart the match, and then here comes Roman Reigns making his return to beat up the Big Show, and by the way, Big Show came out for some reason. The whole thing was just really a big mess, and it was way overbooked, frankly. And, your typical Cena gimmick match, I mean, it was as good as your typical Cena gimmick match, but honestly.
I mean, if you look at the match, it's pretty much the same thing that he's had with other people that have been involved in, like, multiple person kind of things. I think that it's strange to see how Cena is so gingerly worked, if you would. Like, he puts himself into situations where he tries to stay extremely safe with himself, which is fine, but there's a point where it hinders your work, and he's at that point, and nobody's telling him it.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, it's partly his fault, but it's mostly their fault for putting him in these goofy kind of situation matches. The only thing it was missing was the duct tape, to be honest with you. Duct tape Rollins to a chair, to a table.
Duct tape, let me tell you something about duct tape is one of the best gimmicks ever. I'm not gonna lie, that was one of the best things, like Cena things.
I will never forget duct tape for as long as I live.
Anyway, Nikki beat AJ, so what? Ryback beat Kane in the chairs match, which again, more or less, so what?
Right.
Rusev beat Swagger by submission again to win the U.S. title. And again, this had potential to be one of the better matches of the night, but you could tell they were kind of running out of time. And plus, the crowd was actually distracted by some drunk fan getting carted off in the middle of it anyway. So, really, this match didn't need to be on the card. I'm not sure why it was.
And then Bray Wyatt defeated Dean Ambrose in the TLC in some chicanery, or it was fucked up.
Yeah, they really, again, here's two guys who go all out. They fight through the crowd. Ambrose runs up on that pre-show table and clocks Wyatt. A lot of good stuff in this match that kept the energy up, kept it intense. And, say what you will about Wyatt and his character and his promo ability, which is good, although the lines are pretty staggered. He can really kind of take a beating and kind of beckon a match to continue, He's not one of those guys who necessarily sits there and puts a headlock on for 10 minutes, which, by the way, is what Nikki did to AJ in the Divas title match, so,
Which was disgusting.
Yeah, and plus the hairspray finish of that match, which was completely stupid. And, but yeah, speaking of stupid finishes, again, Ambrose gets that TV monitor from under the ring, which King was even questioning, what's a TV doing under the ring? And, that's when you know you have bad booking, when the announcers, who barely pay attention anyway, are pointing out the holes in the logic. But, he goes to hit Wyatt with the TV, and the cord's still attached, and he electrocutes himself, which, and then Wyatt gets the easy pin, which it was, again, I think it's a symptom of this trickle-down booking, where they think, well, we might give Wyatt the Undertaker, and if we do, we gotta let him win here. But we can't just let him beat Ambrose, because Ambrose has been kind of, which they could, because it's not like Ambrose is Cena, But anyway, they decided to give him this sort of easy win and just sucked all the energy out of the arena. And then they wonder why, they need to put sleepers outside the arena after shows to see what people are talking about and gauge the reactions, because honestly, that might fix some of the problems.
That wouldn't surprise me. But this pay-per-view was shitty. I don't care what kind of protest you guys were making, it was still shitty.
Yeah, well, the sad thing is, if you had told me half the show was people deliberately putting on a bad performance, I couldn't tell.
I don't agree.
Divas match look like any other match. They try, but don't do very well in. Chira's match with Kane, how good could that be, necessarily, when you're, Ryback just slamming the chair as hard as he can, and same with the Stairs match. Again, I'm not going to fault these guys for necessarily trying, because it did look like people were trying, but, and, you know, again, it's not really their fault they're put in these situations, but at the same time, it's kind of like, if you can make the ladder match work so well, you know, I mean, it's not just that ladder matches are by default really good and a stairs match is by default really stupid. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a different object.
But a stairs match is really stupid.
Well,
to be honest.
Well, yeah, but my point is, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a different object. You can kind of... There are things you can do with a ladder that you can't do with a chair, but at the same time...
I know that you can say that about anything, right?
Anyhow, you know, I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to, is they kind of know they're being put in these stupid situations, and
alright, so... Yeah, so we're going to blow through this NXT thing. We got 2 minutes. In the dark match, Bull Dempsey defeated Steve Cutler. I'm going to say something about Bull Dempsey here. I knew Bull when he was back on the Indies. He's actually a really good guy. I really hope he actually does well. Kevin Owens defeated CJ Parker. Kevin Owens is Kevin Steen. CJ Parker is a hippie. Owens squashed the hippie, and Parker blew up Owens' nose, the bridge of his nose. He had it sewn shut before the end of the night. Awesome debut. Didn't think that was the last I was going to see of him, but it was awesome nonetheless. Lucha Dragons defeated the Vaudevillains, Aiden English and Simon Gotch. Kalisto and Sin Cara were the Lucha Dragons. It was for the NXT Tag Team Championship. In an okay match. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, but it was okay. I'm a fan of the Vaudevillains. I'm also a fan of the NXT crowd, by the way, because they are the good fans. I really enjoy them as fans. So, and then Baron Corbin squashed Ty Dillinger. If you haven't been watching Baron Corbin, they start counting. The crowd starts counting the seconds in the match before Baron gets in, squishes his opponent, and then doesn't. But Bull was outside the ring, and there was some shenanigans going on. And then the entrance of the year. Better than the Undertaker WrestleMania entrance, better than any other entrance that you could possibly think of this year in any promotion. Am I wrong?
Highly choreographed.
Finn Balor and Hideo Itami, and I'm ignoring the buzzer because we're getting ourselves a little overtime here to talk about this. Finn Balor, the former Prince Devitt, and Hideo Itami, Kenta, defeated the Ascension. These are the Ascension is the people that are coming up to the main roster right now. Finn Balor and Hideo Itami are amazing, and Balor is just I'll see him. We'll see him on the main roster in the summer. I bet. Charlotte defeated Sasha Banks in the best women's match ever. In the WWE on a technical basis, and it was just one of their mediocre matches, which says a lot about the women's division right now. And then in a Dave Meltzer 4.5 stars match, the first one since the WrestleMania 27 Undertaker Triple H match, or 29, one of the two, and the first and the last 5-star match was CM Punk versus John Cena. Sami Zayn defeated Adrian Neville to become the NXT champion. If Sami had lost that, he would have had to quit NXT. Sami Zayn is obviously the twin brother of El Generico. El Generico is currently in Tijuana helping his adoption agency with the orphans and stuff. So,
yeah. The long and short of it, since we're really squeezed for time here, is, not a single match on the NXT show was bad. And there were a lot of bad ones on the TLC. They actually, every match has everything we say about Raw and everything. Every match had a purpose, even the squash matches. Every competitor had a purpose in their match. And, of course, Zayn and Neville the whole story. You know, even if you think it was kind of obvious that Zayn was going to win because of the stipulation, they really put on a great match, and the tenseness of Zayn, you know, thinking about using the title belt as a weapon to win, you know, the whole do what you got to do to win that Neville was preaching. And then, of course, the end when Owens finally did turn on Zayn as people. They waited till the very last second to do it, and setting up that whole storyline. So, you know, check it out.
So, are you going to go watch it, Yankum? Yankum?
I guess so. I didn't realize that I turned the repeater for my microphone off. I was like, yeah. What?
That's not surprising. So, I'm hungry. Are you hungry?
I am fucking starving.
Let's go to the Dairy Queen drive-thru.
Yeah!
And with the ratings, it will be me. This week's Impact... The last episode of Impact is going to be aired on Saturday morning at 2 in the morning for the very last day of, you know, their contract. You are welcome, Impact. SmackDown, Friday's episode of WWE SmackDown drew a 1.74 rating in line with the previous week. As noted, the show drew 2.531 million viewers, up from the previous week. And Raw's Monday Night Raw drew 3.521 million viewers, down from last week's 3.7 million viewers. It's the lowest ratings for the show since Christmas Eve in 2012, and one of the lowest non-holiday ratings since 1997. When Monday Night Football was again number one on the cable, it was a below-average number. So nobody was watching television that night. Everybody was watching. Everybody was watching or doing other things, probably on Netflix and probably at, you know, Christmas parties or something. Yankum, birthdays.
I remember to turn my microphone on this time. Alright, let's see here. On the 16th, we've got William the Refrigerator Perry. On the 17th, we've got Nick Dinsmore, also known as EJ, as well as Kiyoshi Tamura. Does that sound right, Omega?
That sounds right.
Alright. On the 18th, we've got Stone Cold Steve Austin, Trish Stratus, and Mr. Monday Night Rob Van Dam. On the 20th, we've got Gran Akuma, Blitz, Takeshi? I'm not sure. Takeshi. I'm going with Takeshi. Rikio, Tarzan Boy, a.k.a. Toscano. On the 21st, we've got Primo, Eddie Colon, and on the 22nd, we have Luke Gallows, a.k.a. Festus, a.k.a. Freakin' Deacon, and Mystico. And that's it for the birthdays.
And now it is time for This Week in Wrestling with Omega BR.
Yes, This Week in Wrestling history, circa 1968, where Billy Robinson defeats Toyo Nobori in Okayama, Japan, to win the first IWE, the International Pro Wrestling World Series tournament, and become the first IWE World Heavyweight Champion. Jump to 1970, where Toru Tanaka defeats Fritz von Erich in Houston, Texas, to win the NWA American Heavyweight title, later to become the World Class World Heavyweight title, ending Fritz's 8th reign as champion. And in 1999, during a live edition of Nitro from Baltimore, Maryland, Bret Hart vacates the WCW World Heavyweight title due to a controversial win over Goldberg in a title defense the previous night at Starrcade, when Roddy Piper, the fourth referee for the match after 3 others were knocked out, called for the bell while Hart was putting Goldberg in the sharpshooter, claiming Goldberg had submitted. The idea was that Vince Russo had told Piper to give Hart the match in order to right the wrong of the Montreal Screwjob, although later in the show Hart defeated Goldberg to become the champion once again with the help of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Piper then ran down to help Goldberg, was attacked by Jeff Jarrett, who had early in the show defeated Chris Benoit in a ladder match to win the United States Championship. Nash, Hall, Jarrett, then reformed the New World Order, with Nash staying at the band, and goes back together.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And that brings how it happened this week in wrestling history.
That's WCW for you. Not one referee, not two referees, not three referees, four. Four motherfucking referees. Happy trails. Happy trails to Santino Marella, who tweeted the following. Well, folks, bad news. We had semi-emergency surgery today. Had to remove all the hardware in my neck. Not sure what recovery will entail. Alright, well, hopefully Santino is doing better now. Happy trails to Shaul Guerrero and NXT star Aiden English, who are engaged, according to Vicky Guerrero. Sorry, Yankum.
BLG slitting my wrist.
What should we watch this week in wrestling, Yankum?
I would say you should watch Ziggler versus Rollins, because that was a pretty good match. I think that was on SmackDown, right? Or was that on Raw? It was on SmackDown, I think.
I don't remember.
I think it was SmackDown. Yes!
SmackDown Live. About the only thing about SmackDown that was halfway super.
I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, so.
Omega, what should we watch this week in wrestling?
Well, I will go for an unorthodox choice and say the Cage of Death match from CCW's Cage of Death this past week. It wasn't a very impressive cage. As a matter of fact, it was really just a cage. You know, it wasn't the crazy stuff, bladders and barbed wire they've done in the past. It was really just a cage with bags of weapons above it. But they did some, when you see the progression of the match and what weapons were used and who got eliminated, it was a 4-way match for the title, and, it wasn't bad.
I heard there was a spot with 4 plate glasses going off the top of the cage.
I don't remember that, but could be.
Might have been the semifinal.
There were some things that they weren't supposed to have that they used anyway.
I see. Alright, so, Yankum, you already said what you wanted, so I'm going to say the Finn Balor entrance from NXT over and over and over again, because that was amazing. Beyond that, though, you should probably watch NXT R Evolution, because it's, like Omega said at the top of the show, one of the greatest shows this year, and it definitely deserves attention. So, that's it for this week. God forbid, right? Thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you are interested in getting a hold of us or listening to us some more, we are on the interwebs. SmarkSnark.com. You can check us out on Spreaker, Spreaker.com/SmarkSnark, YouTube.com/SmarkSnark, Facebook.com/SmarkSnark, Twitter.com/SmarkSnark is where Yankum and I chat with you. And smarksnark@gmail.com is where you want to contact us if you want to do a booking of some sort, where you want to come on the show and talk. Alright, I think I did everything. So, with all that being said, I would like to thank you all for listening, and we wish you well in your past, present, and future endeavors.
And good night, Grand Rapids.